I could add to them, lots and lots of it. I slapped my hand several times because I wanted to add a comment or to take off in a related direction, but I've really tried to be concise, as a president can ever be. Presidents like to talk. You know, I really miss working. I've tried to do things like write papers. I've written eight snippets that I call. They're little short papers about things that most people don't know, kind of behind the scenes. That's what a snippet I think of, something that maybe is a little hushy, and so I wrote a paper about Louie Nunn, who was my chairman for years on the board. He was a character. You know, we hit it off. We liked each other, and I got along with him fine. But it took some psychology a lot of times to get things done. And I tell the story about my contract, and I was making $100,000 in my job out in Spokane at that time. You know, now that's that time. You know, and it was a pretty good salary then for college presidents, $100,000 plus a lot of fringe benefits, a lot. And so I came here, and I didn't debate salary. I didn't think much about salary. I didn't come here for salary. I just about didn't come here for salary. Anyway, would you like to see that paper? I'll give it to you. Anyway, I came here expecting to make $100,000 or more because I had looked it up, and the average salary of presidents was $125,000. I thought, well, I'll probably get an average salary, and that's good. I didn't come here for money. I really didn't. I came here because I thought I could put this place back together again. It was fractured. Were you here then? It was fractured. Dr. Reinhard, and I don't wish to degrade him in any way in saying this, but he was a president that had no feeling for the human, for the faculty, for the staff. He just didn't have a feeling for them. He wasn't a good person-to-person person. And he would send letters to a dean, and the dean would get it the next morning saying he was demoted. Just a letter overnight. I know the deans that were demoted, and for example, a department head was almost a famous person on campus. He taught philosophy here for years. We were lucky to get him. He was a University of Chicago person, brilliant, great person. I loved him. He was the head of the Department of Philosophy, and he got one of the letters. He came in one morning and said, "You have been demoted. You're no longer a department head. You're joining the faculty as of today." Without any conversation, without a meeting. And he did that all over the place. And some faculty and staff thought that was pretty good, because if he demoted the person they didn't like, that was good. If they demoted the person they liked, wasn't good. And that fractured the campus until there were little pools of people that felt this way, and another pool felt that way, and there was no unification, and they didn't care about the university. It was awful. And I knew that, see, because I kept really in close contact. So the job was amazing. I mean, the job, when you think of coming in with a fractured faculty, the enrollment was dropping fast. It was terrible. They were running out of money. There was not much going well. And I inherited all of that. But I knew I'd inherited it. I knew I was going to inherit it. And I knew I could do it. I came here to help my university that I loved. That showed. I love this university. If you can love a university, I don't know, I think you can. I loved it. But I loved it as I remembered it, partly. And it was fun to be here. That's all I can say. I just had a joyous time here for my 11 years. I loved every minute of it. And to see it fractured and crippled, really crippled. We could have lost our accreditation overnight. And here I was wanting to have the job to come here. And we came, and we had it pretty well put together by the second year. And I had a faculty that couldn't work harder together to make it a better place. We used little themes. I had buttons made, and we all wore them. I care. Ask me. They would ask me, any questions they wanted. Faculty, everybody. We wore these. It's a simple thing. It's a little thing, but it's a very important thing. If you're all wearing the same badge, that means we're together. We're one instead of fractures. Anyway, we made those work. And I'll tell you, when I asked the faculty to go on a trip with me to recruit, they lined up. They didn't complain. They lined up. And I went with them. Wilma went with them. We would talk with grandmas. And by the way, I found that's a little trick I worked. Now just think, we increased the enrollment here 55% in 5 years. Now you try that. Just try that anywhere. You ask any president, have you ever increased your enrollment in 5 years by 55%? No. It's a miracle. But I was good at that. I know how to do that. Everywhere I was, I increased the enrollment tremendously. So I knew how to do that. But I'm a psychologist. And I'm a social psychologist. And I know how to get things done. And so we actually performed a miracle, and no one talked about it like that, but I'm telling you that. We performed a miracle to do that. And I'm so proud of that. And anyway, it was a joy to be the president of that. It was a joy. I loved it. Wilma loved it. Until one day she came in to me and she said, "Honey, I'm really getting tired of planning for meals and reviewing menus and doing this and that, the things she did so well." And she said, "I think you ought to retire. I think you ought to retire in July." Well, I was going to work till I was 65, but so I quit at 64 and a half, mostly to please Wilma. By the way, she has Parkinson's. I would have her here and have you interview her or take a picture of her at all. That's why I wanted you to see that one. She's in the hospital right now, went last night, and I hope she comes home this afternoon. Depends on some of her tests. But she passed out completely on us last night, and I thought she was gone. It was terrible. It was terrible. And we called the ambulance, and she spent the night in the hospital. And she's doing fine. She's doing fine. I'm hoping she'll be home sometime today. Okay. Anyway. Okay, I'm ready to register.
All right, let's see here.
Let's see, we're at the question of...
Question 11 here.
Yeah.
Greatest achievement while you were president at the university.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to repeat because I want it on tape. Okay?
Okay.
You asked the question of is there any single achievement that I would like to tout? Well, to bring a torn and disenfranchised faculty and staff into unity was and get them excited and be boosters of the university in many ways, I expect is an accomplishment. I called it a goal when I came. But increasing the enrollment when it was dropping every year by 55% in 5 years is something that was essential to the welfare of this university. You asked me also the question about how I felt when I heard that they were going to name the Thompson Hall and add a word, Grote, in front of it. I don't know of anything that would have pleased me more than having my name added to the Thompson Hall, to Grote Hall, Thompson, to Grote Thompson Hall. It means my name will be on a building for as long as that building stands. That's a little ego, but when you work hard, and I was here not just for 5 years as president, but I was here 11 years as a dean. I spent 16 years of my career, my life here. I guess I wanted it not to end. I mean end completely, as many presidents' careers end. I'd like for something to project in the future. We have another thing that's going to help us, and when we die we're going to add to it substantially, is the Grote Scholarship, the Wilma Nelson Grote Scholarship that we started, which is unique because of my background. I was president, chancellor of community colleges for 16 years. And you'd have to know that I have some loyalty to the community college system. I think it's a very fine system, depending on how it's administered. So our scholarship was written to take care of the cost, the added cost of a transferring student from a community college, because they now have housing usually to pay for. They have food to pay for, that they can't get housing at home anymore or food at home, and we understand that. So the scholarship that we offer is to students that are transferring from community colleges with certain grade standards, of course, and they can be in any career. But we just want to help students that can't afford to come to Morehead to be able to afford to come to Morehead. So that will live on in the future because we're going to, it's already an endowment, and we're going to endow it more on our death. You ask about why we decided to come to Morehead and to live. When we were here in the 60s, we fell in love with this place. The people are so friendly. And one of the things that Morehead people do, their friendships are real, and that's important. Real friendships, not hollow friendships. Friendships in big cities are hollow. They are there as long as you earn a certain amount of money, you're still holding the prestigious office or whatever you're doing. The day you leave, you get taken off of their list. You're only their friend when you can possibly do something for them. We had neighbors for years in Michigan that we didn't know their name. I mowed my backyard and passed the mower going the other way and didn't know the person's name because they didn't want me to know their name. So I know something about the big city. Morehead's different. The friendships are real. You can see that if you saw our Christmas mailing list. Everywhere we've gone, we've left friends, but we've kept in contact. Even back when I started in 1950. Anyway, our little 7-year-old boy died of a brain aneurysm when we were in Michigan. He died in 19 hours. We knew where we were going to bury him as soon as he died. We said we were going to bury him in Morehead, Kentucky, where he was born, and a place that we love the most. And so our little boy is buried here, and that's one of the reasons that we came back. You ask about a legacy, and you put a 50-year number on that. What is your legacy going to be in 50 years? I don't know. I don't know that any man's legacy other than George Washington and people, Abe Lincoln maybe, they got a legacy 50 years, but I was only president 5 years. You know, Dr. Dorn was president 22 years. You can build more buildings and accomplish more in 22 years than you can in 5. And yet I renovated 3 residence halls and put in a new heating electric system. So it's not very glamorous, but I went to the legislature when the legislature said they weren't going to fund any capital for universities. And I got somewhere around 14 million. The only capital project for the year to install a new steam system, a new electric system, a new coaxial system in the ground. You know, most presidents want to see an edifice of some sort. Well, my edifice, you know, one of my staff members gave me a representation of a manhole, and it's got the C. Nelson Grote tunnel on it. So that was my edifice. It was a representation. But I hope, you know, I hope it'll last maybe 50 years. The old one was put in 1927. And every president, including Dr. Dorn, including all the presidents and the acting presidents before I was, and I'm the 11th president. So 10 presidents did not want to fix that tunnel. When I came here, the faculty came to me and said, "You probably don't know this." And I said, "No, I don't." They said, we had to close the university a whole week this year. We closed down 2 or 3 days a lot of times because the heat went off or the electricity went off. So I went to the legislature, and the governor was a businessman, and I said, "Governor, if your lights went off 2 or 3 days a week, or your heat went off and you had to close your business down for a week, you can run a business that way and make a profit, could you?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, that's what happened to us." I said, "I'm responsible for the management of the college, and I can't guarantee students a good education, effective running of the university if I can't keep the lights on and I can't heat the place." I said, "The tunnel was put in 1927, and they've patched it. It's full of Band-Aids." And what I really did was I had people go in the tunnel and take pictures, put together a scrapbook. We took pictures of all the worst places, and made a scrapbook. And I took a scrapbook down to the president or the governor and sat at his desk with him, and I turned the pages, and he was absolutely convinced that we needed to do something about that 1927 heating and lighting system. So he got behind it. I got our legislators behind it. Even though there's no money for higher education that year on capital, I got either 13 or 14 million, I don't remember exactly, dollars, and we put in a new system, which you still are profiting from. They're adding to it when they add new buildings. They have told me time and again how much they appreciated that we put a coaxial cable in, because that has enabled you to do so much with technology. And so that might be my legacy. But when I hear people talk about me, or as my staff told me yesterday, that they're constantly hearing something about my presidency. And I said, well, what are you hearing? And they said, we hear two things: that you were a people person, that you were a student person. And students come up to me today and say, you remember sitting and eating lunch with us in the student center? I said, sure. I eat with the students regularly. I'd go to different tables all over the place and I'd eat with people. I'd go walking on the campus, and when there was somebody digging or someone painting or someone working, I went up and talked to them. I have the ability, I think, I can talk to anybody, and they think that, you know, I can make them feel that I really know them and understand them. You know, I was a farm boy. I know what work is like. I did all the work that you can imagine. And so anyway, they say, that's what we hear. And I'm pleased, I would be pleased if people remembered me as a people person. I have one thing I want to read to you, and I want it on the record.
Okay.
And you may have a copy of this if it's better, because you can copy it if it will copy. But I'd like to read it and get it on the record. Now, I found this at a small college in southern Ohio on a reaccreditation visit to them. It was on the bulletin board. It caught my eye. I said to myself, man, that is a powerful, powerful statement. So I asked if I could make a copy. They said, sure. I asked who wrote it, and no one knew. I have had this on my desk ever since then, as a president, as a chancellor. I have made copies of it and sent them out to the faculty and staff. Somebody at Morehead will have this in their file. And I have used it time and again when faculty came in complaining or staff came in. And let me read it because it's extremely powerful. At Morehead State, the student is the most important person on the campus. Without them, there would be no need for the institution. Not a cold enrollment statistic, but a flesh and blood human being with feelings and emotions like our own. Not someone to be tolerated so that we can do our thing. They are our thing. Not independent on us, rather, we're dependent on them. Not an interruption of our work, and lots of people think that they are, but the purpose of it. We are not doing them a favor by serving them. They are doing us a favor by giving us the opportunity to do it. That's an extremely powerful statement. I believe it. This is something that I could preach about. And I think that helps say that I was very student-oriented, always for the student. I've helped students. I've helped them get assistantships, graduateships. I still get requests for recommendations. I've always been the student's friend. Now you talk to me about how I felt about the building being named. I want this on the camera. And I told you how I felt when the building was named for me. I want you to know that I've got another building named for me on another campus. I'm very proud of that. This is at Schoolcraft College in Michigan. And they named the administration building after me. And I don't know any other president that's got two buildings named after him on two different campuses. I'm sure there are. But it's a pretty rare thing, I think. I'm extremely proud of. I stayed there 10 years. It was a hard time at times. We went through the same kind of problems that every other university goes through, being short on money and being long on time. But we made it work, and the enrollment grew 100%. We went from 5,000 to 10,000 while I was there. So I want you to know that I have two colleges